And we're recording, and what we have here is parts for an antique Marlin 1895 takedown, getting ready to color case harden. And we are going to wire the parts for the receiver and the bolt into this fixture, and then the fixture will be placed inside this crucible and packed in charcoal and run through our heat treat furnace. Okay, what we have here is the receiver, lower tang, and the bolt wired inside this cage fixture. We've used a small gauge black iron wire to attach all these pieces in there. They're going to be suspended in that cage. The cage will then go into the crucible and be packed with a mixture of bone and wood charcoal, and then go into the heat treat oven. The reason for the cage is, and it'll become obvious later when we get ready to quench this, is we have a fixture that goes into the quench tank that the cage slides in. So when we dump the pack into the quench tank, the cage will maintain that receiver in a vertical orientation as it goes into the water and comes to rest in the bottom and cools. And we found that that is critical in getting an even color pattern on both sides of the receiver. Okay, here we've got all of our parts inside the fixture. We're just sliding the bolt in now. We've got everything degreased, and we're getting ready to place our fixture inside the crucible, and then we'll go ahead and start packing this thing with charcoal. And we've used our charcoal mix here is 1 part wood charcoal and a 1/2 part bone charcoal, I think, is our mix.
1.5.
1.5 wood to 1 part bone charcoal. And we've dehydrated this charcoal in a kitchen oven for a good period of time to get all the moisture out of it before we start the process. Okay, now we've got our crucible packed with charcoal. We've got a small piece of paper laid in on top of it that in case there's any oxygen remaining in there, that paper will help catch on fire and help burn that oxygen out of the pack. But we're not anticipating having any residual oxygen in there. And we're going to go ahead and put the lid on this thing and place it in the oven. And there we go, on the way. This thing is going to run the temperature up to about 1350 degrees, and then it's going to soak at that temperature for 2 hours. Then it's going to ramp down to 1100 degrees, and it'll soak at 1100 degrees and let everything stabilize for about 30 minutes, and then we'll quench, and we'll quench it from 1100 degrees. Okay, and this is our quench tank set up. Use a heavy plastic barrel, about 25 or 30 gallons of distilled water. There's a copper hose coming out of the side right there, and we hook an air hose up to that and aerate the water for several hours before we actually quench. And hopefully you can see the cage. That cage will sit down in the top of the quench tank. The crucible we've got will ride in those V-grooves so that when we dump that cage containing the parts out, they'll slide in a vertical fashion down to the bottom through the water column. And that should get us pretty colors on both sides of this frame. Okay, just for demonstration purposes, this is one of our crucibles with an empty cage inside, and we've got everything all rigged up here together just the way, except of course we'd be inside the barrel of quench water. And when we get ready to quench, then we'll pull that lid off the crucible and dump that cage down inside the other cage. And that's the way that the parts would be presented to the water, and again held in a vertical fashion going down so that the receiver doesn't land on its side. We found that whenever the receiver lands on its side in the bottom of the water, you'll have good colors on one side, but the side that's in the bottom won't have any colors on it hardly at all. Okay, we've chilled our quench water down with some ice, got it down around 55 degrees, and our program is complete. We're getting ready to pull the pack out of the oven right now. Go through this quench process. Okay. And there we have it.
Got color.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Hold it up here and let's take a look at it.
Man will be happy.
Okay, there's one side of the receiver. Here's the other side of the receiver and the bolt. All right, now we're going to blow the water off of that with an air hose and take the pieces inside to get everything cut loose from the cage.